It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth.
Yeah, what's the genius of the Happy Meal? The toy inside, it's not the food. We know that. We know that. So this series is not an endorsement for any particular restaurant company or chain, and it's not, I know it's unhealthy. Please don't send me your emails telling me I should be talking about carrots and celery. Okay? I'm just talking about the genius of a Happy Meal was that there's something found inside. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and the New Testament is full of these pictures, these vignettes, these opportunities for us to see Jesus share a meal with people. And every time, there's a prize inside. Jesus does something completely unexpected and completely unnormal and just surprises us with it. And so we're going to begin the series, Happy Meals, and it'll take us through, there'll actually be 5 meals we'll share together, 4 weeks on the weekend, and then the Good Friday service. It'll take us all the way through Easter, and we'll look for these prizes inside each time. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a clue here. The prize inside the meal today is grace. Just in the middle of this meal where you anticipate anything but grace, Jesus shows up and surprises. In fact, he shocks everyone with grace. Now, grace is getting what you don't deserve. It's distinct from mercy. Mercy is not getting what you deserve. But in this meal, we see grace. And so I want to take a look at it. I bought a Happy Meal yesterday, and the boxes are kind of cool. And I realized, here's a toy that was given away. It's still crap. It was crap when they first started. It's crap now. It's some worthless toy. Somebody said this is named My Little Pony or something. This is the girl toy. My granddaughter will get it this afternoon, and she'll, probably throw it on the floor, and my little grandson will put it in his mouth. And so that's what we'll do, My Little Pony. So let me pray for us, and let's jump into the story. Father, thank you for the privilege of being able to gather. And we have gathered for the purpose of bringing glory to your name and learning more about Jesus. Finding out, seeing what it might look like to walk with him, walk in his steps, and follow after him. And so we ask that in a supernatural way, God, you would help us to concentrate, that you would help us to see things that are applicable for us, and that you would break through some of our excuses and reasons for keeping you at arm's length. I ask, God, that you would change, as you have done in the other 3 services, you would change eternity among us today for your glory in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so if you brought a Bible, you can open it up. It's on your handout as well, all printed out. Luke chapter 19. Open up your flat screen devices and get to there if you need to. We're going to take a look at this picture. It's a story that if you've been around church for any time at all, you've probably heard this story. If you grew up in the church, you sang songs about this story. It's the story of Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus. And I'm just going to kind of tell you the story and kind of interrupt it and make some comments along the way as we go. It's chapter 19, verse 1, Zacchaeus. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. Now, we need to kind of set a context for you and also a geographical location so you can kind of know where we are. The context is, best guess, 8, 9, maybe 10 days from the crucifixion. So we are at the very end of Jesus' ministry here on earth. He has said for several months, he's been telling his disciples, we're heading towards Jerusalem. And they have said every time, dude, not a good idea. We have it on good authority that if you show up there, they're planning to kill you. And he has said, in fact, some of the older translations of the Gospels say Jesus set his face like flint to Jerusalem. In other words, he made up his mind and he established that as the course and the will of God, and he is going there. Now, as he's been doing this, he's right on the edge of entering into what we call the Holy Week, the last week of his life. Jericho is a city down at the foot of the mountain that Jerusalem is built on. Okay? It is right on all the trade routes. The major trade routes that would have come up from Africa and then up north and east into all of the trade areas into the east, and would have all flown straight through there. Present-day Syria, Jordan, those countries, all of that border Israel would have all had trade routes that would go into those different areas. Jericho is a very critical city for all of those reasons. Also, it's important because when you go to Jerusalem, of course, you walk there or ride an animal, and when you do that, Jericho is the last place to rest before you begin your ascent. The last 17, 18 miles and 3,300 foot of climbing would take them about a day. They were used to walking. It would take most of us, 3 or 4 days probably. But you don't want to get caught in the middle of that journey. The road is treacherous because of the terrain. It's treacherous because of bandits on this road, known for it. And so most people would come in, stop in Jericho, rest there for some time, and then make the last climb up into Jerusalem. Make sense? And so this is standard practice that Jesus would come in, stop in Jericho, and that's where Zacchaeus lives. Verse 2 tells us about him. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. Now, here's the amazing thing. This is the 6th time in the book of Luke alone that tax collectors are mentioned. They are the most hated individuals on the planet in Jesus' culture. Reason is because someone who is Jewish has negotiated with the Roman government and said, I'll collect your taxes for you. I will make sure that I meet your quota. And they would say, meet the quota or be fired. But then from that point, you can ask for as much as you can get without them killing you. So you would constantly raise the taxes, and that's how you would make a profit. Now, Zacchaeus says he's the chief tax collector, 6th tax collector talked about here, always positive, always in a good thing. But we don't really know what that word chief tax collector is. We don't really know what it means. We believe it's something like the godfather of the tax collectors. Okay, he's the boss. He's in charge of and probably has several smaller tax collectors under him, and he's taking a cut from all of them. There's a chance that Matthew or Levi in chapter 3 and 5, when he is called to follow Christ, that he actually used to work for Zacchaeus. We don't know why Zacchaeus is so interested. You'll see later on, but possibly it's even that. He's the chief tax collector, and it says in this verse, he had become very rich. Now, here's a little clue about the scriptures. If somebody's wealthy, they'll just say they're rich. Whenever the scriptures throw an extra word in there, very rich, think wealthiest dude in town. Okay, think that. Jericho, very rich area, very strategic for all of the trade that's going on, and here's the richest dude. He's getting a piece of everybody. Got it? Got it? Yeah, okay. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. Or as the song says, he was a wee little man. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. So he figures out the route that Christ is taking. He's too small to be able to see over the crowd. He can't figure this out. He looks and sees where he's heading, and he notices there's a giant tree. Here's a picture of a sycamore fig tree. They were very large trees. They produce fruit several times a year. The fruit is not good to eat. The only people that would eat it would be poor people. It was a large tree, probably like this, and he probably had to pay someone to give him a boost. He does two things that Israel men, Jewish men in Jesus' day would never do. He runs and he climbs a tree and shows his legs. Those are incredibly disgraceful. It is very humiliating for him to do either of those things. It is to say he is an unsophisticated idiot. Now, he's already kicked out of culture with his own people because they hate him because he collects taxes for the Roman government and extorts extra taxes out of his own folks. But now he's done something even more miraculous. Everybody would have said, I knew there was something wrong with Zach. There's something wacky about that dude. What is he doing in the tree? When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Never met him before, doesn't know this guy, but he looks up and he sees him and he says, Zach, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your house today. Calls him actually by name. Zach, notorious sinner. He doesn't say that. He says, quick, come on down. Go set the places up because I got to come to your house today. The word for I've got to come to your house is lodge. I need to lodge at your place. It literally means to unhitch the pack mule. I believe Jesus comes and probably stays with Zacchaeus at least a full day and maybe even a couple of days before he goes into Jerusalem for that last week of his life. He gets a final respite with this dude. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. Now, it's awesome to see the contrast between Zacchaeus' reaction of excitement and joy and everybody else. But the people were displeased. That's an understatement. He has gone to be a guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Now think, notorious sinner means this. Everyone in town knows his sin and he has been put out of the community. He cannot partake in he would never be invited to any of the religious festivals. He can't go into Jerusalem and be a part of anything that's going on there. He cannot go in and worship at the local synagogue. He is put out. The Godfather is out and not welcome. No matter how rich he is, no matter how anything's going on. And when we read this, we think, oh, they were grumble, I don't like it. No, that's not it. The word for grumble is the word that's also used for an animal that's in agony. So here's the deal. Zach, Jesus says, come on down, let me have lunch at your house. And everybody in the crowd, the scriptures say, all the people, all together go, no! Jesus, you're new to town, not him! Not this guy. I mean, it was a loud voicing of displeasure. He's an idiot. His name means just and righteous, but he's anything but just and righteous. Not him. You cannot eat with this dude. And they're yelling it right in front. Zacchaeus doesn't care. He's just, doing his little, wee little man walk to the house. He gets to his house and sets the thing up. He doesn't care, but everybody's yelling. They were probably yelling throughout the whole meal. No, not him. Least popular dude in the city. Richest guy in the city, least popular. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Zacchaeus stands up before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. Notice how he's addressing him now. And if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. I will give half my wealth away right here, right now. And if I've cheated anybody, I'll reward them back 4 times as much. Now, I don't know, but I'll bet there's many people in the room that are expecting a tax return soon. And you're hoping to get back some money from the government where you've overpaid your taxes. Now, I don't know what you're expecting back, but it ain't nothing like Zach's doing. It's like he says, if I have cheated anybody in the room. And everybody in the room goes, if. Everybody, you've cheated us all. And he says, I'll pay back 4 times as much. By the way, that's more than the law required. That is the admission. That's what's required in the Old Testament law. That's what's required of a person who admits they're a thief. He's basically saying, I've stolen, and I'm going to make it right 4 times as much. And there are people in the room going, let's see, year 25 AD, you took this from me, year 26 AD. And they're handing him pieces of paper. Well, not pieces of paper. They're handing him accounts saying, you owe me, you owe me, you owe me, you owe me. And from what we know, Zacchaeus the whole time, you know what his demeanor is? Still excitement and joy. If there's anything I have done, Lord, I'll make it right. Now, this story is so powerful that we have some extra biblical accounts, some historical accounts of the early church of the first century. It's not in the scriptures, but it's in some pretty reliable resources that tell us that Zacchaeus eventually becomes the very first bishop ever appointed by Peter for a church region. Against his will, by the way. He didn't feel like he was worthy of being a bishop. And Peter made him a bishop of the Caesarea region out on the coast, which was the Roman capital of all of Palestine. And this guy becomes that. Jesus responds, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. Jesus came to find those who are far from God, the notorious sinners, the ones who are out of fellowship, and to call them back to himself. And you read this story and you go, if Zacchaeus can come, anybody's welcome. Now, we're surprised by this awesome, amazing, life-changing grace that pours into this scene. But what do we need to do to tap into that same grace today? What is it that Zacchaeus did that we can model, principles we can embrace so that grace can flow towards us? Well, I think he did at least 3 things, and I want to highlight those real quickly for you. First thing that we need to do is we got to climb a tree. It's impossible for us to really get our head around how much shame and how much ridicule climbing that tree meant to Zacchaeus. But he looks at the lay of the land. He sees that he's got some obstacles and that he can't get to Christ and can't see him. He has decided he will do whatever it takes. He lays aside his pride. He lays aside his dignity. He lays aside all of those things and says, give me a boost. Give me a boost up this tree. I need to see Christ. And I would tell you, there are some in the room who have been flirting with Christianity for a long time, and it's time for you to put aside your pride. It's time for you to put aside your dignity. You don't need more information. You need to climb a tree, and you need to embrace Christ as your Savior. There are some of you who have embraced Christ long ago, and you need to come back to it. You need to I know it's embarrassing, I know it's humiliating, but you've blown it. You need to admit you've blown it, and you need to climb a tree. You need to drive a stake in the ground and say, I got to have Jesus. Above everything else, no matter what, I've got to have him. There are some of you in the room that need to get over the crowd. That's the second thing we got to do to get grace going. Can you imagine if Zacchaeus got a boost up there and then he gets addressed by Christ? I mean, we don't have it here, but it is with certainty based on what's written in this story that he is just being abused the whole time. His name was supposed to mean that he was righteous and just. But instead, it's been this joke the whole time, that he's anything but that. And then Jesus begins to talk to him, and they just to his face with talk about him like he's not even there. You cannot deal with this man. And he has to somehow get over the crowd. The crowd's going to accuse him. By the way, you know who the crowd is? It's church folk. It's us. If a notorious sinner came into our congregation right now and professed Christ, some of us would say, oh, no, not you. And there are some of you in the room that you need to get over the crowd. You need to get over the accusations of what people are going to think and what they might say about you. And you need to humble yourself so that grace can flow. Listen, here's the typical argument. If Christianity is true, then it would produce the kind of people who would change the world. And since the people in the church ain't that kind of people, Christianity must not be true. Right? And that's the line of reasoning. If Jesus was real, he wouldn't produce people like me and you. He produced biblical proportion kind of people. And since he ain't doing that, it must not be true. Listen, you need to get over that lie. You need to stop blaming me and using me for your own rationalization of your own selfishness. Can I just be honest? Here's the deal. You look at my life and you see how I act, and you might assume that there's not been much work of God in you. You might hear me say a word, and you say, he says a word. He says he's a Christ follower, but he said that word. Well, if you only knew the 4 words I filtered out, you might see that Jesus has actually done a significant work in me. You pull out of the church parking lot this afternoon, and as you're pulling out of the parking lot, you pull into front of somebody, and they honk at you. And they got a little Jesus fish sticker on there, and you think, I see they honk at me. Well, if you'd only known what they'd have done to you 2 years ago, the hand motions that they refrained from using, you might see that Jesus has actually done something significant in their life. You see what I mean? From afar, you can't know. So if you want to use us for your own rationalization to stay selfish and to stay it all about you, go ahead. But if you want to come to Christ, if you want to have grace in your life, you got to get over that. We already know we're a room full of hypocrites listening to a hypocrite talk. We know this. Get over it. We have surrendered. Get over it. That's what opened up the floodgates for Zacchaeus. He never, ever again looked back and said, wow, I wish I was rich. The third thing is you got to take Jesus home. You got to decide, this isn't just something I do once a week or with a group of people or once every other week, however often you come. This isn't just something I do around the religious holidays. Easter's coming, so I'm kind of getting there. I'm going to take Jesus home. I'm going to bring the lifestyle that he's asking me, I'm going to bring him into the conversation every day, every single day. I'm going to invite him in to influence what's going on. You do those things. You humble yourself. Climb a tree. You humble yourself. Put your pride and your ego aside. You get over the crowd. You establish that, I don't care what people think. I don't care what they say. I'm gonna give my life to this. And then you take him home. You invite him to come on into the house. Grace will flow. That is the kind of prayer that God promises he will always answer and use in a significant way. Now, I want to give you a chance to respond to this. And this is where it's going to be a little different. I'm trying to follow what I felt like God was prompting me to do. And so here's what I want to do with each of those 3 responses. The third one I'll get to in a minute, but the first 2 responses I want to respond in this way. This is out of my reading the different prayer requests and things that come in every week. Here's what we're going to do. Mark, you and your team can come on down and get ready. They're going to come up and they're going to do what we call worship noodle. They're going to noodle up here. They're going to have their instruments, and they're going to kind of noodle on something. And we're going to come together. And first, people, is you need to climb it. There are people in the room. I believe by the grace of God, you have been led here for just this very moment so that you can climb a tree for Jesus. And I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you to come right down here, come down and confess your sins, trust Christ for the very first time, or confess your waywardness and trust Christ again and rededicate your life to Christ, or admit that there's a begetting stronghold and sin in your life that's holding you back, and you come down here and you get right. I know it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to climb a tree no matter what. So you come on down. And I would just say this, in the last services, it's been overwhelming, the response to what's going on. So if you're an elder or a pastor or a shepherd, a past elder, I need you to go ahead and come on down right now and come up here and sit on the steps so I'll know how much help I got. So come on. So I'm asking you first, there's a group of people in here, you need to climb a tree. You need to come down here and get right with God. There's a second group of people, and that is you need to get over the crowd. You need to just get over the crowd. And as I read the prayer requests, there are 3 areas that you can't really do much about other than pray, but we ought to at least pray. And so we've set aside some time to do that today. And if you have an area where it's in finances, or not in finances, but it's in vocation, or it's in health, or it's in relationships. Each of those 3 areas, vocation, health, and relationships, we really can't do much about it, but we can pray for you. And so I'm going to ask you to self-identify in just a minute about that. Is that all we got? Just 3? All right. All right, we'll see how it goes. I may need somebody else. Charlie? Do I see Charlie back there? No? All right. So let's stand together and I'll explain this. By the way, in the theater, over there, what you're going to do is you're going to go forward and John's going to walk you through what's going on in the service there. But what we're going to do is, some of you, while they're doing the worship noodle up here, you're having a prompting where you need to come forward and you need to get right with Christ. You need to come on down. Now, if you have an area in your life and you'd like someone to pray for you in the areas of vocation, health, or relationships, I'm going to ask you to also take a risk. I'm going to ask you to sit down. Just sit back down. Anybody that needs prayer in any of those areas, relationships, vocation, health. I see the prayer requests all the time, every week. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to ask the rest of y'all to gather around. We only need a couple of 3 people per person sitting. And all the people sitting have to do is say relationship, vocation, health. They don't have to explain nothing. Okay? I know that was double negative. Give me a break. So, they don't have to explain anything. And don't get weird on me. Don't try to figure it out. You just pray for them and whatever they tell you. Vocation, health, relationships. Okay? You're going to need to leave where you're at. You're going to have to move out of sections and go find somebody. There's some people sitting towards the back that we need to make sure that they get prayed for. And so right now, at this time, one of those 2 responses, I'll come back with a third one in just a minute, but one of those 2 responses, come down here, pray with one of us, or sit down right there and get prayed for, okay? All right, spread out and go pray for people. Okay, you can have a seat. And we'll just keep going up here for a little bit. But I've got a third response that I'd like to challenge you with. Last week, as I was praying through those prayer requests, some of the needs, some of the needs are so tangible and so real that if you just had a little help, life would churn for some of you. I've been broke, and I've been under the confines of a budget that says that if you have a flat tire, your whole month is screwed up. Or if your car breaks down. Or if, just one little, you're so tight about what's going on that you just can't you can't have anything go wrong, and when it does, it just blows everything up. Or to be under the confines of some health issues or some resource issues where you need to do some things around your house, but you just can't get it done. And so this is I don't know a better way to do this, but I just feel like we got to do this. I read a prayer request last week. A gal in the church said, I'm a single parent. I'm working hard. I'm doing the best I can. I've got 3 young girls, and I'm trying to get them to school and me get to work and everything, and do my shopping and do the washing at the laundry and everything like this on a bus. Doing it on a bus pass. It sure would be great to have a car. And I just thought, I bet there's somebody in the church that's got a car sitting in their driveway that they don't even really use. I mean, I'm not asking you to give it to them. Just sell it cheap. And there might be others that would help. And so I don't know how this works, but here's what I'm asking you to do. On the prayer tab, on the communication card, if you're in the room and you have a legitimate need, it's some help with tires for your car, or repair for your car, or repairs around the house, or school supplies for your kids, or clothes and shoes for your kids, or something like that. It needs to be a legitimate, real need, not a want. Listen, don't send me a card that says I need an iPad. And actually, that'll be easy for me to file. I don't know how I'm going to figure all this out, but the one that says I need an iPad, I can file that one real quick. So, but some legitimate needs, they're in the room. They're the kind of needs that collectively, not individually, but collectively, we could help. So I'm asking you, if you've got some needs, use your prayer card and write them out. Just say, give us a way to contact you and write out what your needs might be. And I'm not promising you that we can meet them. But we can't meet them if we don't know them, so write them out. Now, there are others of you in the room, and this is how it's going to get messy, and we're going to work it out. I don't know how. But there are others of you in the room who say, I'll help with tires. I mean, I'll throw $10 in. You know, $10 won't get a tire, but $10 will. Not a good one, but it's okay. I mean, we ain't promising when you're going to get Michelin radials. You know, it might just be Maypops. But anyway, we're just going to try. So this week, I've already told the staff, this is messy, it's going to be crazy. We're going to make a stack of cards that says needs and a stack of cards that says resources. We're just going to try to put people together. So if you look at your budget, you say, I could help with some benevolent need. If you need it, maybe $100, $50, $20, $5. Or I got some time coming up, I could help paint a house, or I could help, work on a car, or I could help. Somebody handed me a card last night. He said, I remove stumps, cut down trees. And it just so happens I have 8 stumps at my house I needed taken out. I said, dude, you and me. We can work this out. So I'm just taking the resources. Now, it's going to be messy. It's going to take weeks for us to kind of sort this out. And I'm not promising we'll use you if you say I've got resources, or that we'll meet your needs if you say you've got a need. But I just want to try. I want to try it. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that for many of us in the room, there is plenty. Come on. There's plenty. And for some in the room, they're like hanging on their fingernails. Now, it might be they're hanging on their fingernails because of stupid choices. And if that's true, we'll do our best to help them be smarter. But it might be it's just hard. Life sometimes drop kicks you. And I just want to try to be able to make this. So Mark's going to do another song, and as he's doing that song, at the first part of the song, I want you to just write on a card, this is my need, if you can help me, or I've got some resources, this is the skill I have if you want to try to hook me up with somebody, okay? I know it's messy, you're looking at me like, I ain't signing. Okay. Now, listen, if in any way you're not being prompted inside to be a part of this, I don't want you as a part of it. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to feel manipulated or pressured. Plus, I don't want to have to call you 6 times to get you to do it. I want people that are saying, I'm led to do this. I want to help. And if you do, sign it. And if you have a need, sign it. And let us know. They're passing out some pens and stuff, so we'll try it, okay? All right, we'll give it a try. So, all right, so Mark, we'll sit there, fill it out if you can, and then Mark will tell you what to do.